Hey, it's Xennial Gamer, and we are here today with a modified version of Seiishizo's Julie Dragon Speed 10 team. This is what I was able to put together because I didn't have quite those crazy G3 runes to do enough damage with Julie to clear the waves in one shot. But I was able to put together a team that's giving me really consistent runs between 27 and 32 seconds. Now, I still have a couple of finishing touches to put on it. I've actually been working on the team today, and I thought it would be good to do those final finishing touches in this video so you could see how I'm using the optimizer as well to kind of finalize the team. But before we get into that, I just want to explain the concept here. It's nearly the same team as what he uses, except I've replaced one of the Talias with Lyn. So I initially tried to actually copy his team using the two Talias, and the problem I had was that my Talias don't do quite enough damage, and my Julie doesn't do quite enough damage. And so I wasn't consistently getting the boss below 50%, and that's very important when your Talia goes. And if you're not sure why, it's because of this skill 3, where it says, attacks an enemy target 2 times, and the damage dealt to the enemy with half or less HP increases by 50%. So if the boss is at 50% or less health and your Talia is strong enough, then you're going to be able to finish it off from there. But if the boss is even just an HP over 50%, then you're not going to kill him. He's going to get his immunity up and the fight is going to extend. And in one case for me, he actually wiped my team and I had a fail when I was running the double Talias. So my solution to that was to stick a Lyn in between Sabrina and Talia in the speed tuning, because Lyn is going to do big enough damage to consistently get the boss below 50%. Even when she doesn't hit with her skill 3, the boss usually goes below 50%, and that created greater consistency in the runs, and it allowed me to do it without those extreme G3 runes that the best version of this team would make. So let's take a look now at the runes that I am actually running. Okay, so in this team, we start off with Julie. You're going to notice right away, my Julie is really faster than she needs to be. I said I've been working on this team for the day, and in an earlier version of speed tuning, my Shayna was a little bit faster as well, and I had to get Julie up near 180. So I might be able to add some additional damage and trade off some speed with her, because I have now changed my Shayna down to 161. But for now, you'll notice also Julie only has 88% crit rate. I don't quite have good enough runes to do a Julie version of this team in DB10. And since I'm only using her in Dragons right now, I only need 85% crit rate because she's got attribute advantage. So from the Julie, we go to the Shayna, and you might have noticed the Shayna does have 100% crit rate because she does not get that 15% benefit of the attribute advantage. You'll also notice the accuracy. So Shayna's passive actually adds 25% accuracy, and it adds 25% to Sabrina when they go together as well. And the boss has 55% accuracy. So you only need 30% accuracy on your Shayna, but the way my set broke out, it happened to be 40%. From there, we're going to go with Sabrina. And the Sabrina, again, not 100% crit rate, but above 85%, which is the key. And then, again, above 30% accuracy, so when she goes with Shayna, she's got enough accuracy to offset the boss resist. Talia, you're going to notice right here, my crit rate on Talia is low. This is one of the finishing touches I need to put on this team. This is the highest damage build I could get on Talia at the time, but I sacrificed a few crit rate in exchange for that. So I'm probably going to have to reduce her damage just slightly, but I'm going to get her to 85 crit rate to create more consistency. And then the Lyn, which actually goes between Sabrina and Talia, is at 99 crit rate. So that's another thing I need to fix. Now, one other thing you might have noticed as I went through these sets is that I have fight sets on Shayna and Sabrina and Talia. I do not think I'm going to be able to put any fight sets on Lyn just because the crit damage is going to be more important, and then I wasn't able to get any on Julie as well. So I've got Shayna and Sabrina both on Violent, and that's a little bit of dirt protection just in case the boss resists defense break. I've got that chance of the Violent proc as well. If they were on Fatal or Rage, I'd be doing a little bit more damage, and I would probably be able to put up higher or faster top speeds, but I'd be giving up that dirt protection. And so I chose to go for the slightly greater consistency at the cost of when they do Violent proc, If they violent proc and the boss and the enemy was already defense broken, then the violent proc was a waste, and I didn't need that, so it slows the run down. So in effect, I'm slowing my average runs down by a couple of seconds in exchange for a little bit more consistency. Okay, so let's take a look at Julie's set and see how I got there. Okay, so we're in the optimizer now, and I've got Julie loaded up over here. You can see that I put it in for a rage set with attack, crit damage, and attack runes. And then right now I don't have it configured to use locked runes, but I do have a few monster exclusions from when I did it previously. We're looking for a minimum of 85 crit rate. And in the case of Julie, I'm going to now need a minimum of 162 damage. Excuse me, a minimum of 162 speed. And then we're going to get to the damage. So if you're not familiar with it, this little settings cog over on the right here, we have our plus 15 to say we're going to max all our runes. And to the right of that is a little settings cog. And this allows us to configure the specific situation that we're going to be in. So in this case, my Julie is going to be using the 1,000 shots right here, which has a multiplier of 120%. And the beefiest of the wave monsters is going to have 1,204 defense. So we're going to put in an enemy defense of 1,204. We're going to choose max skill ups. We're going to get our guild skill for Kairos Dungeon. And we do not want to use the dungeon preset because all that would do is change the defense to the boss. And what we're more concerned with right now is the waves. We're going to always assume a crit, so make sure crit is checked. And we're going to use our buildings. And because Julie is going first, there will not be any defense break. So we go ahead and hit apply. And that shows us that in my current build, Julie is doing 2,603 damage per hit for each of the 6 hits. Now, so the highest damage set I can go to in a broken set is actually 2818, but I already know that I don't need that much damage. 2603 has been enough for me. There is one other thing I need to point out that I didn't when I was on this screen. I don't think I can edit backwards later. So just so you notice here, the leader skill I have at 57%. This is really important. I've got 3 fight sets in there, and I've got the Xennial lead. So it's 24 plus 33. 24% for the fight sets, 33% for the Xennial lead is 57% attack. So we want to make sure we're accounting for that in our calculation for how much damage we're doing per hit. So coming back over here to my possible sets, I know that 2818 is not enough to clear the waves. You actually need to be just over 3,000. And I know that the 2603 that I'm doing right now is enough to ensure that Shayna is clearing the waves. So anything in that range is going to work for me, and I can kind of just scroll down and find which of these sets that I like. More damage is always better, so I'm most likely going to pick one of these highest sets over here. But now let's go ahead and take a look at our Lin. Okay, we are back and ready to configure our Lin. So I just want to note right up here, I'm going to look at Rage first. I'll also look at Fatal and Violent. But on the slots, the only thing we care about is crit damage, because the majority of Lin's damage comes from crit damage, so I don't care if she's using a resistance rune, an HP rune, a defense rune. In fact, it's better if she's tankier. But we'll look at all the different runes that are available to us. And then over here, we're going to put a heavy emphasis on crit damage. And so we've got our speed range. Our Talia was slowed down quite a bit with the rune change, so I've got a wider speed range to slot Lin into, but I do need that 100% crit rate. And then I'm going to come over here again, and I'm going to reconfigure her damage. So we've got the Phantom Crush. You'll notice that my attack percent for the leader skill is down to 49 because I lost one of those fight sets with Talia. And so then I've got my max skill ups and my Dragon's B10 boss. So the current damage is 36,479, but the real damage is slightly higher because in the last test runs, she was receiving the benefit of that additional fight set. So what we're really looking for is probably somewhere around 38,000 on that damage output. Okay, so we see that we can get a 41,000 build, which is actually pretty nice because it's just taking some runes from one of my other Lins and from inventory. So that's kind of a win right off the top. We are going to take a quick look and see if there are any fight sets available, but I'm not expecting there to be. So now from here, because I do want to use fight sets if possible, I'm just going to pin this top build because that's really a perfect build for her. And then I'm going to come over here. We'll leave it at rage, but we're going to go ahead and add fight in now and compare that to what the best fight build option would be. And it looks like that's going to be 39,597. Then we'll come up here and we'll swap this over to Fatal, and we'll take a look at what our best Fatal option is. There really is not a good Fatal option at all. And as a final thing, we'll take a look at Violent. And I am not expecting the Violent damage to come anywhere near that close, but we will take a look just to make sure. If the Violent build, for example, is somewhere around 38,000, it's probably worth it to me because that adds some derp protection. Okay, so it looks like we actually do have a 37,000 damage Violent fight option. However, it's pulling runes from some monsters that I'd rather not pull from for these purposes just because I don't believe it's necessary. If I thought it was necessary, then I would reconfigure those monsters, but in this case, I know the team works even when it was imperfect, as you saw at the start of the video, so we're just trying to tweak and fine-tune it, and to me that's not worth rebuilding. Now this second option down here, this one is much more palatable. So 36,846 becomes my option, so I'm going to go ahead and pin that one as well. And then I'm going to run one final calculation, and because I have a lot of Violent runes, I'm going to reduce the search depth probably down to 30. And I'll run a final calculation and see what my options are with Violent and any other random set. Okay, so we've got our damage calculation for Talia now. We actually had to run quite a few configurations in order to get it. And what we're seeing is that there's not really going to be an option to maintain the fight. And I am going to have to pull some runes from another monster or two. But I will be able to keep my damage levels close to the same while getting that additional crit rate. Okay, so we've made our rune changes, and we actually did one more adjustment in between. I did try the Rage Fight. I had an option for a Rage Fight set on Lyn, and it did not work out so well. It turned out that she would sometimes leave that boss right in the edge of that 51% HP, and the Violent set provides me with that additional dirt protection, so we wound up moving her to Violent Fight. So just as a refresher, our Shayna is a 100% crit rate with some accuracy in speed, crit damage, attack on a Violent Fight. Our Julie, we switched over to a Rage Focus set. This gave me a little bit of accuracy so that S1 Strip provides some additional dirt protection for me. It can strip the immunity from the boss. It had the side benefit of letting me use a focus set, because where else would you ever use that? And it did give me a slight damage increase, which wasn't strictly speaking necessary, but more damage is always better. Sabrina's runes were unchanged: Violent Fight, Attack, Crit Damage, Attack. And so then Lyn, we've moved her into Violent Fight. We got her up to that 100% crit rate. The crit damage is down just a little bit, but the attack went up quite a bit, so that should actually result in a slight damage increase for her as well. And then Talia now is extremely slow, but that's okay. She'll still act before the boss at 134 with a max speed tower. And she is over that 85% crit rate minimum now. So a few things to consider. I've got them up on screen as you're building your team. Julie should be at about 2,500. Julie should be at about 2,600 per hit based on the calculation that I showed you in the optimizer. She'll actually work somewhere in the upper 2,500s. I didn't figure out the exact number. But in my first build, I had her at 2,500, and the Shayna skill 2 was derping on occasion. When I boosted her to 2,600, the Shayna skill 2 became reliable. So that's the range that you need to be in, is about 2,600. You want to have at least 15 accuracy on Shayna. So Shayna's passive gives you a 25% accuracy boost, and the boss has 55 resist, and remember, we can never bring resist below 15. So against 55 resist, you want 40 accuracy. So with the Shayna passive, 15 accuracy is enough. If you have a little bit more, always for the better. It never hurts to overkill, but what you're shooting for is 15. For Sabrina, 15 is enough when she's going with Shayna, but when she's going on her own, you do want to have her higher. I would try and get her to that 40% accuracy mark if you can, which would be the maximum she can utilize against the boss. 100% crit rate is really going to help you with Shayna and Lyn, but it is not required. All it does is add a little bit of dirt protection. Basically, every couple of runs, if you don't have 100%, you might not completely kill one of the waves, and you might have to watch Sabrina go an extra turn, and it would slow you down by a couple of seconds. A little bit of accuracy on the Julie skill 1 helps. It's just a little bit more dirt protection. It is not required. It's just something that's going to be helpful just in case. Fight sets and towers also help, but are not required. All those things really do is boost your attack percentage a little bit. So if your towers are not maxed, but you have monster runes, it balances out. If you're using the optimizer, it's going to account for your towers already. So if you're just shooting for that target damage per hit, like when I showed you the Julie calculation, it's accounting for my towers. My water tower is not maxed. It's at 8, I think. So that calculation of 8 was based off of my own towers. As long as you can put out the damage, it doesn't actually matter what your tower level is. Same thing for fight sets. You saw that I accounted for the fight sets by just adjusting that leader attack skill. So at one point I lost a fight set when I switched over Talia and couldn't keep a fight set on there. I was able to get the fight set back on Lyn, but it wouldn't have mattered. As long as you're hitting that damage level, again, it's not required. And then I would recommend violent sets on Lyn, Shayna, and Sabrina if you can, because it provides a little bit of dirt protection on the boss. The waves are going to be very reliably cleared between your Julie and your Shayna comp. You're seeing in the background right now, every time the wave is cleared in 2 hits since I hit my damage minimums. What is not always going to be 100% are going to be your mid-boss and your final boss, because you do have to land a defense break on them, and even though I've got my accuracy levels where they need to be, the boss has 15%, like every monster in the game has 15% chance to resist. So if you don't land a defense break, that's going to slow you down. Particularly on the final boss, if you don't land the defense break early enough, then Lyn will not bring the boss below 50%. And that means Talia may either not use her skill 3 or may not finish the boss off with skill 3. So those additional violence sets give you a little bit more dirt protection and give you a little bit more consistency. So you'll see in the runs in the background, I think we've run a couple were in the 28-second range. This last one was 36. That seems to be about the range that this team is giving. Somewhere between 26 and 36 seconds with a lot of consistency. If you're able to output the damage that Seiishizo's outputting, that team's going to be much faster, of course. But if you're not able to, I think this is going to be definitely a really good option for you as something using like late mid-game runes where you can get consistent 26 to 36 second runs. So I hope you all found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. If you found it helpful, please hit the subscribe button. I'm just getting started out, and the more subscribers, it really helps quite a bit. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please pop that subscribe button over on the left. It shows me that you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, it shows me that you found the information useful and hopefully it helped you in your gameplay. So here's the deal. You pop subscribe and I'll keep popping out content. Thanks guys.